It was, no, it wasn't, I wasn't ambition, but it was entirely my own.
You've said that the reason these letters and this time are painful to revisit is because they represented a time of great insecurity for you, and you had great anxiety about getting started as a writer. What was at stake?
Everything. Everything. I really did face the abyss for many of those years, 52, 53, 54, not being able to get started. And very soon when I left Oxford, it really meant being destitute, actually. I had no money. My scholarship was finished. I had no money, and I wanted to be a writer, to make my living by writing.
Where do you think that huge ambition you've had over the years comes from? Because there are writers and there are writers and there are writers, and there's some writers who
it was
think
an
big
absurd
and
ambition, absurd ambition. Where does it come from? Partly innocence, partly a belief in my star. So that took a knock many times.
Well, in the letters, your father, Sieber, said, is very encouraging of your ambition to become a writer. Was he always?
Oh, yes, yes. He talked to me as though I was going to be a writer.
It's interesting because another person might have felt competitive with his son, jealous that you were getting the opportunity to fulfill your dreams. Instead, he comes across as completely supportive.
Yes, there was I don't think there would be a shred of jealousy. I think that comes from more secure families. When things are secure, families can be jealous internally, but no jealousy here.
Looking back at your father's work from the perspective of your own years and maturity as a writer, do you think that he was as promising as you did then?
Yes, he was. I didn't sufficiently appreciate him. I appreciate him a lot more now. For this reason, nothing is harder than to write for the first time about an unwritten about community.
And that's what he was attempting to do.
He did that very successfully in his stories. You see, it's hard for this reason. You will read, perhaps, other writers, and then you might wish to fit your own experience into what the other writers are doing. These stories were not like that. These stories had a great purity, and they were absolutely what they were.
To some degree, what writers who have come along later in these various colonized countries have attempted to do. To come up with a literature of the country rather than a literature that imitates the
I don't think
colonial power.
I'm not aware of people trying to do it, actually. I'm aware of a lot of mimicry going on, so that the local experiences get distorted to some extent by the borrowed form. But I don't wish to say too much more about that because I don't wish to tread on any toes. You know?
Well, maybe we'll get to that a little later.
Yes.
Your father gave you some very good advice about style, you say.
Yes.
He said that you should say exactly what you want to say, and then you'll have achieved style.
Yes.
It should be that easy.
Well, I actually read that in an interview that somebody had gone into among the letters and picked that out, but I had completely forgotten it, and by some accident, it has become my own practice. My own practice is refine and refine and refine your thoughts. Don't let the words run away with you. And when you arrive at exactly what you mean, that is writing.
My guest is V.S. Naipaul, who's published more than 20 books of fiction and nonfiction. The latest, Between Father and Son, Family Letters, is published by Knopf. We'll talk about that title and other things after we take a little break here on AM 820 WNYC. WNYC is supported by OncologyChannel.com, monitored and developed by board-certified oncologists, translating medical information into consumer health education, featuring Oncology Forum, where questions about such conditions as breast cancer, lung cancer, and ovarian cancer are answered online at OncologyChannel.com. Classic silent films with live music. Between Father and Son Family Letters from Knopf is his latest book, if we can call it that, because all the other books are things that you wrote and then sent to a publisher. Yes. Here we have letters between you and other members of your family, and although the title of the book is Between Father and Son, there are many letters here between you and your sister, yes. Kamla.
Yes.
She's not mentioned in the title because it comes from a suggestion that your father had that someday the two of you would write a book together? And he wanted to call it Between Father and Son?
I'd completely forgotten this, and then I saw that this title was given by Gillen Aitken, who edited the book and put it together. And some little thing clicked in my mind, and I saw that funny letter. Yes. I thought very good of Gillen to alight on that phrase.
Oh, it's a wonderful fantasy also.
A fantasy.
Between a father and a son.
That's it, absolutely a fantasy. Yes.
Your sister was in school in Benares, India. It's interesting that she went to India and you went to England, but also that a girl was sent away the way boys might.
Yes.
I would have assumed that was a rather odd thing in Indian families in Trinidad or even in India.
It was very odd. She got a scholarship from Independent India. I think they gave scholarships to Indian communities overseas, and I think that was how she went. We had to pay her fare, but they looked after her when she was there.
And money was incredibly tight.
Money was awfully tight.
In fact, because there was no money, you didn't return to Trinidad until 1956, 3 years after your father died.
Absolutely, yes.
Considering how comfortably you live now, are you shocked by the circumstances of your years into your 20s?
No, one just, at the time it all seemed, it was what it was. And times have changed, communications have changed. Now you can telephone people. But in those days, there was no means of telephoning, so I never heard my father's voice after I left. And times have just changed. One doesn't look back and think, oh God. No.
Well, when you returned, you couldn't have been very happy, but it did lead to the writing of what is described as your first masterpiece, A House for Mr. Biswas.
Yes.
When did you realize that you would not go back to Trinidad to live, that your future was elsewhere?
I never intended to go back. I always intended to leave.
I mean, when you were leaving Trinidad or once you had arrived in England?
I intended from about the age of 12 to leave. I had a very good sense of the plantation colony. I had a very good sense that it was not a place for me. That I could do what I wanted to do only elsewhere in the larger world.
Well, hasn't Trinidad changed a lot?
I don't know. I think I had to be among writers and magazines, and I needed that. You can't be a writer in a vacuum. Writing is a physical thing. You need publishers, book manufacturers, critics, magazine. It's an industrial product in a way. It's not purely a thing of the spirit.
But it's also something that often comes from people talking to each other, exchanging ideas, and that might have been a bit more difficult in Trinidad. In England, you were meeting a lot of other people who were aspiring.
No, it wasn't that I was meeting. I was going to the place where writing existed as a profession, and I could become part of that. I didn't meet any writers.
In fact, if one could ascribe a theme to your life, it might be travels of the outsider, the person of Indian descent in Trinidad, then in England, then at times in Africa and elsewhere. And I read one quote from you where you described yourself as placeless in the world.
Placeless?
Yes.
Very romantic, very romantic. I wonder when I said this. I don't know. One says so many things, and in these, probably it recorded what I felt at that time, you know? But then you get older, you get calmer, and one would now be nervous of making these romantic statements.
And you don't feel that way anymore.
No, I feel that so many people are like me. I think it's an increasing condition.
Well, you've chosen to live in England, or at least to make England your home base.
Yes.
You were
Yes.
knighted. Do you think of that as a kind of confirmation of your Britishness?
Oh, no, no, no. I think of the knighthood as a tribute to the dedication to the career, my vocation. That's the way I accept it. It has nothing to do. It has no social or national blessing.
Do you think because you don't have that that national sense about you that it's a reason you haven't gotten the Nobel Prize?
I don't know. It's not. I don't know.
I know your name is mentioned every year, and then...
Well, I don't know. I don't know about these things, really.
And you don't worry
other
about them?
people would know. I must do my work. I do my work.
Well, it's surprising that you haven't. One of your novels has been chosen as one of the 100 best novels of the century.
Yes.
And I think most people consider you a truly great writer, and you have to think about those
Well, after
things.
44 years, one should be considered, I think. People should think of one like that. Otherwise, it would have been a half a wasted life. So at least there's that. That's a blessing. That's a blessing.
The young man of this book could be described as sensitive and insecure, not adjectives most people have used to describe the V.S. Naipaul of today.
Yes.
How much of that young man do you see in your older self? When you look back at your life, do you see a through line from that person to the person you are now?
Yes, it's a great... I'm amazed that someone as shy and as nervous as I was could have become this kind of traveling person and could have done it so well. To have lost the shyness, it's an amazing thing. I don't know how I did it, actually, but I have done it. I don't know how I lost the shyness before a group of people, even to talk, to say a few words. I don't have it now. I can do it.
How long did the shyness last after you arrived in England?
My shyness, a long, long time. I'll tell a story. Even when I published a book and a little group a colonial group asked me to come and read, and I went in 1959 or thereabouts. I arrived at the place, and there were the people waiting to greet me. I was overwhelmed by shyness, overwhelmed by feeling of being slightly unworthy, and I walked past the reception committee. I just couldn't pretend to be the man they was standing up to welcome. Just their nervousness. All that's gone now.
But it is strange going to another country. I know I went to England when I was 20, and I was overwhelmed by the different accents, not just the British accents I knew from the films, but different accents altogether, by the way the light struck the surfaces of buildings. It was so different from what I knew. And I just felt totally alienated for a couple of months.
Yes. I'm glad you talk about the light. That was one of the happiest things I have about traveling. The day I left Trinidad in 1950, I took a very slow aeroplane to New York.
There were no fast ones in those days.
There were no fast ones. They took time, and they stopped at Miami. They stopped on the way, and the quality of light, even that month, was there. And then I went to England. There's that light, that late afternoon, evening light, and even the normal daytime light, to someone used to the very harsh, very bright light of Trinidad, the tropics, there appeared to be a feeling of protection. But that quality of light was very beautiful to me. I recognize it from time to time. It gives me joy. It reminds me of that trip out.
Is it fair to say that the publication of this book is the closest you'll ever come to writing a memoir of your early years?
No, I wrote a thing called, a very complicated thing called A Prologue to an Autobiography, which was about getting started, and the material that prompted that, and the discovery of that material, and then going back to check up on the people I'd written about. So I wrote that. Whether anything I can write would be as good as these letters, which are fresh and unedited, and I'm not sure, but one must never say never.
Well, what do you see as the role of a writer vis-a-vis the personal disclosure? Today, we've been receiving memoirs that
Yes.
tell us perhaps more than we want to know about
Yes.
some people's lives.
I think one should be as truthful as possible. One should aim at that. I think unless one deals in truth, then these memoirs are not really useful.
You've said that one shouldn't wallow.
Well, you wallow in emotion, you wallow in melancholy, you wallow in being insecure, you wallow in grief. One shouldn't wallow. I think one has to go beyond that stage.
What do you see as the relationship between intellect and emotion for yourself as a writer?
Yes. Without emotion, there can be no writing. But one cannot just offer this brutal emotion, which is full of rage sometimes and full of tears some other. One can't just do this. One has to refine it. And this is where the intellect comes into play.
Although some of your fiction seems brutal and full of rage, but that was an intellectual decision?
No, something happened. I was asked to do a reading in 1979 here in New York, and I read from a book that was given the Booker Prize 8 years before in England. And what I was reading was set in Africa, and as I was reading it, I was amazed by the rage and the anger in the book. I was quite amazed. I had worked at it so carefully. I was putting it together like a watch. I thought of it only like that, a piece of writing. Then the anger.
It had slipped in without your even realizing.
No, the anger permeated everything.
And Gorillas is a really brutal book, isn't it?
I don't think there is anger there. There was anger in that book I've just mentioned, the Booker Prize-winning book from 1971. I think this reflected my own dissatisfactions in life. It was a personal dissatisfaction.
And with that, what you found in Africa?
It was about myself, actually. The anger was about myself. And that somehow permeates all that material. Guerrillas, it's a brutal, frank way of looking at revolutionaries who were exploiting ideas of deprivation and racial deprivation. It's very brutal. It is brutal, but it's not angry the way the earlier book was angry.
Looking at the list of your works, there seems to be just about an even number of fiction and nonfiction works, but I wonder how your novelist's eye informs the nonfiction. Because you're a novelist, does it come down to individual stories, the personal as a window to the political?
Yes. Because one is a novelist, because one loves narrative, because one loves people, this is what I'm looking for. I think any situation in the world or in any country can be defined by the adventures and pressures on people within the society. And if you are balanced and honest in writing about people, the problems are defined.
As far as other writers, you seem to be difficult to impress. I read one article that said you've dismissed Baldwin, Bellow, Roth, Lionel Trilling as trivial, written off Nabokov, Fitzgerald, and Hemingway. I'm
not responsible for that. I'm not responsible for that. I have to be given a little break there. I'm not responsible for that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm very careful not to make statements about my contemporaries.
But why do you think people think you say things like that?
I think because it makes a good story. People build stories around me. I don't know. I wonder why people tell stories about me. Probably because I might say things unexpectedly, and they sound funny.
But there's also the problem of being a public person when you think of yourself as a private person. I might say things to friends that I don't expect to read in the newspaper the next day.
Exactly. One is a private person. One should have that freedom to chat, to babble, you know.
Even if you might regret seeing.
Well, I
print
think
later.
babble should be regarded as babble, you know, and one shouldn't be pinned down to it.
My guest is V.S. Naipaul. The latest book of his writings, also the writings of his father, his sister, called Between Father and Son, Family Letters from Knopf. Not your mother.
My mother began to write.
I mean, there are a few letters.
She sent birthday cards and Christmas cards, and she's not a writing lady, not a reading lady. She, while she lived, I don't think she never read a line I wrote. She never read a line my father wrote. She never read a line my brother wrote.
Did that hurt?
No, it was all right. It was all right. She loved the books as objects, and I think she put them in a bookcase. But that was the limit of her appreciation. But she would defend the writers. She was very good in that way.
You've written a lot about Islam, first with Among the Believers, then more recently with Beyond Belief.
Yes.
And you've explored Islam in non-Arab countries, Indonesia, Iran, Pakistan, Malaysia.
Yes.
Why is that so intriguing to you? The idea of the struggle of ancient societies to reconcile new belief systems?
I arrived at it quite intuitively, and the reason, which I understand now, is this. I come from India. India was ravaged and conquered by Muslim invaders after 1000 AD. And to ignore Islam in any study of India or any feelings about India is to ignore the most vital aspect of its history. So the emphasis there in this is Islam is a non-Arab religion, the religion of converted people. So it has to do with my exploring of my Indian ancestry.
Well, I know you're a vegetarian. Are you a practicing Hindu?
No, I have no faith, actually. I have no faith. My feeling for India has my feeling for the sculpture and what remains of the temples, etc. It's an aesthetic feeling. And there is an idea about being rooted in the earth that belonging to an old faith gives me. But I'm not a religious person. I'm not devout.
Throughout your nonfiction work, there seems to be a critique of people who look to political or religious systems as a solution to their problems.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The solution to people's problems tend to be very slow, political action, the development of institutions, development of law. In I'm afraid, Islamic countries now, the converted countries, the opposite is being said. When things go bad, people say we need more religion, more religion. So great, almost unshakable tyrannies are established in places like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran.
Well, until recently, it was Marxism or some other ism, fascism, that had that impact. Now it seems to be mostly Islam, although other religions play a role. Your book, Away in the World,
yes,
dealt with those wrong-headed ideas, as you saw them, of African revolutionaries.
Well, exactly.
And we're still seeing that play out in Africa, both in a religious and an ideological way. A country like Nigeria, for example, where there's religion and political ideology, and maybe some sense of tribal nationalism also, to keep that huge country at war with itself.
Yes.
And you have Burundi and Rwanda, where two people are constantly at war with each other, even though they share a religion.
I'm afraid the tribal animosities are so profound. They're locked in the heart. And there's no way of dealing with it, because they also go with all kinds of religious beliefs. And
but we see that in India as well. We see that in India now. We're seeing similar things in parts of Indonesia, where the Christians and Muslims are at war with each other. In Sri Lanka, we have Buddhists, pacifist Buddhists, at war with
and the Tamils. Yes, there. In Indonesia, it is the conflict between two competing revealed religions. They were fighting over as it were, the corpse of the old Indic culture of this place. When this is the corpse, because when India itself was ravaged by the Muslims, the cultural heartland faded away, and this place became Indonesia, Malaysia, all that Indic basin became a region of religious conflict in this new way between the two revealed religions. And these revealed religions, they offer larger philosophical ideas than the old animist faiths or the old slightly shamanic beliefs could offer. So people need them, and now they're ready to die for them.
In India, we have a Hindu nationalist party that is outraging all of the other people of India by claiming that they're all Hindus whether they want to be or not. Sikhs, they say, are really just variants on Hindus. The Muslims are, the Buddhists are, everybody is.
Yes.
What do you think this need for proclaiming yourself as not just a great religion, but as the only religion? Why is it so powerful in India?
Every country is special. Every country has its own specific history. And as I said so often before, talking here, India was virtually destroyed by the Muslim invasions. And this is a very, very, very delayed reaction.
With independence, the millions who died on both sides were part of that delayed reaction?
This feeling, this Hindu party, it's a very, very delayed reaction to the Muslim conquest.
Wow. We're talking about 500 years.
It has great historical resonance, and it has to be understood like that, I think. It has more than fanaticism. It has to be seen as, however painful it is, as a kind of historical readjustment.
So do you see yourself as more of a child of India than a child of Trinidad?
I don't think like that. I don't think in this way. I don't have any tribal home. Many things have made me, and I accept all the things that made me. Mm-hmm. Many countries, many cultures.
Well, it was fascinating to read these letters and wonderful to talk to you about them. V.S. Naipaul's Between Father and Son Family Letters is published by Knopf. Is there a novel in the works?
I don't want to blight anything I might be working on.
I was just wondering whether I'd see you again soon. Well, whatever you're working on, I hope that you'll come back to New York and Company.
Well, I'd like to. Thank you.